My husband convinced me to be open and vulnerable with him about what I went through as a child so he could better understand and care for me. But then he used my traumas against me when we had an argument about disciplining our kids. I do not even know how to write this because my head feels like it is splitting in two. I keep hearing the words again and again, and I cannot believe they came out of his mouth. We have been married 14 years. We built what I thought was a stable life together. 2 kids, our daughter, who is 12, and our son, who just turned 11. They are my entire world. When I look at them, I feel the kind of love I never knew existed because the truth is I never experienced that kind of love as a child myself. That is something my husband has always known about me, though it took years before I could say it out loud. When we first got married, he noticed how I never talked about my parents. He noticed I avoided talking about childhood. He would tell me his stories, warm holiday memories, his parents decorating the house, sibling arguments that turned funny. I would just nod and smile. He told me he wanted to understand me better, to really know me. Over the years, he kept pressing until one day he begged me to open up, so I did. 7 years ago, I finally told him everything. I told him I was never meant to be here. I was the 4th child after 3 siblings, a failed contraception baby, an accident, that is the word my parents used. They reminded me constantly that they did not want me. It was not subtle, it was not hidden, it was spoken outright. I told him about the amusement park when I was 9. The day they tried to get rid of me. They left me behind on purpose. I knew it, even at that age. They thought I would panic, wander off, disappear. What they did not expect was that I had already memorized the road home. Hours later they acted like it had been a mistake, like they lost me in the crowd. But I knew what it was. I knew what they had intended. I told him about the night my father wrapped his hands around my throat and squeezed until the world went dark at the edges. I could not breathe. My head felt like it would explode. To this day, I do not know why he let go. Maybe my mother walked in. Maybe something inside him pulled back at the last second. Whatever it was, I lived. Barely, but I lived. I told him about the food, how some nights everyone else ate and I sat there watching. Not because we were poor, we had enough, but because I was excluded. If they bought something good, they shared it among themselves, never with me. I remember sitting at that table as a child, stomach empty, watching them laugh while I pretended not to exist. I told him how they never missed a chance to remind me I was an accident. My parents said it. My siblings picked it up. It became the running joke that I should not exist, that I was the mistake they could not erase. I told him how once they admitted they had planned to abort me, but never went through with it. They said it with no hesitation, as if it were a casual piece of trivia, not a dagger to my chest. And I told him about the winter night when my father locked me outside as punishment for something I did not even do. I was maybe 10. It was freezing. I stood out there shivering, crying, my teeth rattling. I honestly thought I would not make it through the night. A neighbor eventually saw me and banged on the door until my mother opened it. That neighbor probably saved me. These are the things I poured out to my husband. It was not easy. I remember shaking as I said them. I remember how exposed I felt, like I had ripped open scars I had carefully hidden for years. He hugged me after. He told me he was glad I trusted him. He promised he would never throw those things back at me. Last night, he broke that promise. We argued. It was stupid. It started with our daughter's homework. He said I was too soft on her, that I let things slide. I said he was too harsh. It escalated. We were both defensive, one of those arguments where you forget the point and just keep trying to win. And then he said it. He looked straight at me and said, "Maybe your father should have finished what he started that night. That I don't even deserve to have a family, let alone children. That maybe it would have been better if I had not survived. That I was never wanted anyway, and I was the one who told him so." I froze. I actually thought for a second that I misheard him, but he said it again calmly, as if he believed he was simply pointing out a truth. I cannot describe what it did to me. I have had cruel things said to me before in my life. I have been insulted, mocked, belittled. I know how to brush words off, but this was different. This was the one person I let into the deepest part of me. He took my pain and turned it into a weapon. I just stood there in silence. I did not even yell back. I could not. It felt like something shattered inside me. The rest of the night, I barely spoke. He acted normal, like nothing had happened. I went to the spare bedroom and stayed there. I lay awake the entire night, hearing his words over and over, blending with my parents' voices from years ago. Their cruel jokes, their reminders that I was unwanted, all coming back with his voice layered on top. I thought about the rage I carried as a teenager, how I used to wish my mother would die painfully. I thought those feelings were buried deep, but last night he dug them up and threw them right back at me. I cannot move past it. This morning he was cheerful, as if none of it had happened. I could barely look at him. All I could think was that something inside me had broken. I do not know if it can ever be repaired. Now I am sitting here thinking about divorce, or at least separation. I do not even know how to start. I do not know what lawyer to call. I do not know how to explain to the kids why their parents are breaking apart. Part of me wonders if I am overreacting, if this is just a fight gone too far. But I know myself. I know I am not overreacting because I cannot imagine ever forgetting what he said. Usually I move on from almost anything. I swallow pain, bury it, keep going. But this is not something I can just swallow. This is different. He went to the deepest wound I have and drove the knife in. I need to say this clearly. I need validation. I need someone to tell me I am not crazy for feeling this broken. I need condolences because I feel like I am spiraling, replaying his words in my head. I thought my past was behind me. I thought I had buried it and moved on. Last night showed me I was wrong. It is not buried. It is alive, and it can be used against me by the very person I trusted most, and I do not know how I could ever forgive that. Top/relevant comments. Commenter 1. You shouldn't stay with him. Words matter. It's over. Opie's response. I guess so. Thinking of starting with separation so that the children can adjust a few weeks. Then of course I'm asking some people for advice regarding lawyers. Commenter 2. First, I'm so incredibly sorry that you were abused by your parents as a child. What you endured growing up is absolutely awful, and my heart breaks for you. It seems odd to me that you described the fight as little, yet he went to such a drastic place as a weapon against you. If he can go that hard over a fairly common point of contention with raising kids, imagine what he'd pull out for something bigger. I know Reddit seems to jump to leave pretty quickly, but I think leaving is something to seriously think about. If it were me, I don't know that I'd ever be able to get past it. That was lower than a low blow. My goodness, the hurt he hurled at you. I'm so sorry. Sending you a hug from afar and wishing you peace in your decision and the ability to heal again. Opie's response. Thank you. He believed that I should be more harsh with them, like maybe a little beating to get them to study or shouting at them, while I am more of a calm person and would rather say the same thing 3 times over 3 days if they forgot it. And then we were battling about who does it better. Commenter 3. Seems to me he said all that to win the argument. It worked. Unfortunately, I would like to suggest you get some professional help in dealing with your past, but also have your husband present so that the professional can help you communicate how you feel to him. He has found a tool to win, and will use it again. He also needs counseling because his behavior is beyond hurtful and betraying. It was disgusting and not how a spouse should treat their other half. I wish you well, but please grow strong, so the past can't keep hurting you. Opie's response. Thank you. I don't usually think about my past, and I found it very peaceful when my father died the other day, so I am normal, not depressed because of that. Update, 4 days later. I waited until Tuesday. He went through the weekend and Monday like nothing had happened. A little colder than usual, quick with his answers, acting irritated, like I was the one who had caused all of this. No apology, not even a hint. It felt like I was carrying something heavy while he just moved around it. By Tuesday afternoon, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I asked him to sit down with me. The house was quiet. I told him I needed to talk about what he said during the fight because this wasn't something we could just shrug off. I reminded him that the fight had started because I refused to hit our daughter while teaching. I told him I don't believe in beating kids to make them learn and that he had pushed for it. That's where the argument began, and somehow it slid into something so much uglier. Asked him why he used what I told him in confidence against me. I reminded him that he had asked me to open up years ago and promised he would keep it safe. I asked him why he hugged me back then, if this was where it would end up. At first he was stiff. He said he didn't know what else he was supposed to do at the time. He told me he just tried to act normal, to be supportive because he didn't know how to handle what I told him. He said he hadn't realized how heavy it all was until later. His voice was even, like he was just explaining facts. I told him the promise mattered. I said it wasn't about a slip in anger. It was that he reached for the exact things I handed him in trust and turned them against me. I asked him again why. That's when he admitted it. He told me he lost some respect for me after I opened up. I asked what that meant. He said it wasn't one detail, it was the whole picture. He said he had always seen me as solid, someone who could carry weight without bending, the person he leaned on. But after I shared everything, he couldn't stop seeing the breaks under the surface. He said parts of my story made me look fragile to him. Some of the darker pieces, the way those years sat inside me, gave him an uneasy feeling he couldn't shake. Seeing me tear up and feel so nervous and like a wreck made him look at me very differently. He actually used the word ick. He said sometimes when he remembered those things it got in the way of how he looked at me. I asked if that meant he thought less of me for surviving. He said it wasn't about surviving. It was about how it changed what he expected from me. He admitted he had built an image of me that didn't include those kinds of wounds, and once he knew, he couldn't put that image back. I asked him why he hugged me then, why he told me he wanted to know me fully. He said he didn't know what else to do in the moment. He didn't want to punish me for telling the truth. He said holding me and saying it was okay felt like the only decent response at the time, even though inside, he had already started to see me differently. I let that sit, then asked the harder thing. He said he couldn't control himself in that moment, and he reached for what he knew would hurt me most. He said he regretted it and that it would never happen again. I also thought about how it might sound from the outside, like maybe I dumped too much on him back then. But the truth is I never sat him down and unloaded everything at once. I gave him my story the way he asked for it, piece by piece, only when he pressed me. If he wanted to know something, I answered. I didn't overshare, didn't volunteer random details. And even then, he probably only ever heard a fraction of what I actually live with. What makes this worse is that I've been to therapy. I've done the work. I wasn't unloading on him because I couldn't carry it myself. The only reason he even heard those parts of me was because he demanded it. He insisted I open up, insisted he wanted the whole picture. He told me he wanted to know me fully, and I believed him. I trusted him enough to hand over things I never planned on saying out loud. That's why this betrayal feels so much heavier. It wasn't me blurting out things I couldn't control. It was me handing him pieces of myself because he begged for them, swore he'd hold them safe. And then he took those same pieces and cut me with them. After he said all of that, I just sat there for a while. It was like I'd finally gotten the truth behind everything, but it didn't settle in cleanly. I wasn't shocked anymore, more resigned. I told him I didn't think I could just go back to how things were. I said I felt like the foundation was cracked in a way I couldn't ignore. I told him maybe the only way forward was to separate amicably, quietly, before things got any worse. I said I didn't think I could keep looking at him the same way, not after knowing he could turn something so personal into a weapon. That's when his whole tone shifted. The firmness he had when he explained himself dropped, and he sounded almost panicked. He asked me not to say that, said he didn't want a divorce. He told me he still loved me, that whatever he had done in anger wasn't bigger than the life we had built. He couldn't imagine splitting the kids between us, couldn't imagine them growing up in 2 houses. He told me leaving would scar them more than anything we had been through. I told him love isn't supposed to look like tearing each other apart with the sharpest words we can find. He said he knew that and promised again that it wouldn't happen anymore. He said he had already admitted it was wrong, and he meant it when he said he'd never go there again. He kept circling back to the same point, that we had kids, that they needed us together, that whatever issues we had to fix them without breaking the family apart. He didn't cry, but there was a kind of desperation in his voice, almost like he was afraid I was already out the door and he was trying to pull me back any way he could. He didn't apologize again for what he'd said, not directly, but he kept stressing that it would never happen again, that I shouldn't throw everything away over one mistake. Right now I haven't made a final decision. I keep going back and forth in my head. Part of me feels like the damage is too deep, and I'd be lying to myself if I pretended I could ever really see him the same way again. But another part of me hesitates because walking away isn't simple when there are kids and years of life tied together. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't leaning more in one direction than the other. But I'm not there yet. I feel heavy most days, caught between wanting to protect myself and not wanting to tear my family in half. Some moments, I think I know what I have to do. Then I second-guess it. It's draining, but at least writing this down and hearing different perspectives has made me feel less alone in it. Thank you to everyone who's taken the time to read, comment, or even send me a message directly. It means more than I can put into words. I couldn't respond to every single individual, but I have gone through all of the comments, maybe even twice. Thank you, strangers. Top/relevant comments. Commenter 1. He wants you to focus on him and the kids more than yourself and the hurt that he caused you. This should tell you more than anything else. What he did was essentially respond with emotional blackmail and make you think that your actions are the reason the kids are going to be hurt and that the relationship is potentially falling apart. Literally a narcissistic response. Commenter 2. EW. He wanted you to hit the kids over homework? As someone who was raised being hit over homework, that is abuse. This is further reinforced by the fact that he was disgusted by the fact that you're not abusive, have been abused, and then abused you. He is abusive. Not only do you need to get out of there, but I would suggest evaluating whether your kids are safe with him. Protect yourself and your kids. Commenter 3. His not apologizing is what tears it for me. It signals that he still feels what he feels about you, as he described in his explanation. And frankly, that's what makes staying difficult, if not impossible. He can promise not to do it again, but if lack of control is the reason behind launching a devastating surgical attack with emotional abuse as his primary weapon of choice, then I'm afraid his promise might ring hollow. Lack of control is what a person with abusive tendencies says to excuse their behavior. If you still have access to a therapist, I'd strongly encourage you to seek out their counsel, to work through your feelings and help gain clarity in deciding what to do moving forward. I wish you good luck and light with whatever you decide to do.